Well, welcome everyone. And most importantly, thank you to our veterans that are attending today. We honor you with this presentation. Today, folks, I'm going to talk about self-awareness, a topic that I think we should explore more. We should have more dialogue around. You see, as veterans, we're faced with challenges that sometimes test our limits. It tests our fortitude, our resiliency. It even sometimes shapes our character, and it strengthens us to the very core of who we are, our self-awareness. Think about that for a minute. But true strength also comes from within. It's knowing who we are. It's understanding who we are. And that is the byproduct of our self-awareness. I like to believe this self-awareness is made up of a number of different things. Maybe your self-image, your self-actualization. But today, allow me just to talk about the component of self-awareness. You see, I believe when we think about the power of self-awareness, it breaks down in three important points. Self-awareness is the key to understanding who we are, why we function the way we do. It's being in touch and in tune with our authentic self. That's our self-awareness. I often ask myself this question: who are we? My mentor shared with me one time, he said, when you're alone by yourself, that's really who you are. He would talk about the mask that we might wear when we're in different circumstances. But our true authentic self will always shine through. The second point I want to talk about when I think about the power of self-awareness, it allows us to transition from this military to the civilian life with confidence, right? With clarity of who we are. We know we were a soldier, we know we served, we know the different things we did, but think about it like this. We're now stepping into a new realm, and we bring our self-confidence with us. Sometimes we're mistaken by a title. We think we're a title, but we're so much more than that. The third thing I want to share with you when I think about the power of self-awareness is when we understand ourselves better, when we become in tune with ourselves, our idiosyncrasies, our differences, our personalities, the way we think, the way we've been shaped. It also forms our relationships, but more importantly, it impacts our decision making. And that's critical. I often say every decision starts with a thought. And the dominant thought that you have will lead us to a decision. Overall well-being is important, but think about the power of just a single thought. Next I want to talk about, what is self-awareness? We kind of gave you what I call the three cornerstones or the power of it. Now, what really is self-awareness? Let's do a few of these definitions. It's the ability to recognize our emotions, our thoughts, and our behavior. There's certain things that when that happens to me, I have to monitor my self-awareness or it will move in a unique direction. And some of you can relate to what I'm saying. Being in tune with our emotions, our being, our thoughts. We're emotional creatures, but our emotions shouldn't drive us. Good decisions should drive us. Understanding how our past experiences shape our present mindset. As a Native American, I can tell you my self-awareness was very limited growing up. What I was exposed to was a very small circle. It wasn't until later in life that I broadened my circle with new friends, new experiences, even trying some new things that broadened what? My self-awareness. I began to get confidence now, believing I could do things because I had stepped out of the unknown into the known. And so think about that a minute. Our mindset, the way we think. Next one, I think, what is self-awareness? It's this consciousness of how we respond to different situations. I often say that when people are having a bad day, you have to be careful. They'll sell you a ticket to their bad day. They'll invite you to their pity party. They'll invite you to their not so good circumstances. But you have to be cognizant and self-aware of who you are. I'm not suggesting it's not appropriate to help people and to want to be there for people, but be careful how far we go. Because at some point we get to a place where we lose our identity and our self-awareness. And finally, when I think about what is self-awareness, it's just recognizing my strengths, recognizing my weaknesses, and understanding what I need to do every day to be the best version of myself. For me, if I'm not putting it in here, it's not coming out here. And so when I'm not spending time feeding this will never change my heart. And so self-awareness, right? That's what I think about when I say, what is self-awareness? So why is self-awareness so important? And why does this matter to the veterans, active duty, to our families, and to all the people around us? See, it helps us navigate from a transition of where we're at. Some of us have been maybe out of service for many years and still trying to figure out how to transition. Maybe it's something that we've a learned behavior and we have to learn a new behavior. So it's all about self-awareness. Understanding our emotions. Remember I talked about that, how our emotions, we're emotional people, but we should make quality decisions based upon our thought process. If you're not healthy, you can't make good decisions. I find that when I'm not in a healthy state, I'm a follower versus a leader. And so today I encourage you, be conscious of your self-awareness. And lastly, it leads us to better decision making. We all want to make good decisions. And listen, I've made my share of bad decisions. But every time I look over my shoulder into my past, there's a common denominator. Number one, I was making a decision that I didn't think through. Number two, I probably wasn't taking counsel from wise people who had walked the path upon which I wanted to go that might be able to shed light into my path. I basically was walking in the dark. And number three, I was acting with the wrong motive. Don't miss that. I had the wrong motive. And when our motives are clear and our values are clear, we move differently. Self-awareness, I need you to get that. Let's just pause a minute. And what's resonating with you right now based upon what I've shared so far? Hey, we talked about emotions, decision making. We talked about our environment. What's really kind of resonating with you right now? What are you feeling inside of you that you might want to discover about your self-awareness? Let's keep going. So the role of reflection of self-awareness, why is it important? Why is it important to stop and reflect on our self-awareness? Because taking time to evaluate my decisions, taking time to evaluate my thoughts. Listen to this. We make decisions all day long without even thinking about the decision. I call it being unconscious competent. We're unconsciously competent. I'll give you an example. Some of you drove here today and you didn't even think about, do I turn left or I turn right? Because you either have a navigation system leading you or you know where you're at and you kind of do the same thing. I bet you probably drive home the same way from work every day. These are what we call unconscious decisions that we make all the time. We have to be careful because some of them will lead us down a path where it may not be where we want to be. The next thing I think, if we want to think about the role of reflecting upon my self-awareness, my mentor shared with me that you should journal. You should write your thoughts down because the dark day of today will be a sunshiny day tomorrow. But when the next dark day comes, you have something that you've written down that you can draw strength from that might help you move to the next place. Hey, Robert Schuller, one of my favorite authors, wrote a book called Peak to Peak Principles. Now, peak, P-E-E-K, the peak, to a peak, P-E-A-K, was what he talked about life is. A series of moving from one plateau to another, from one station to another. The best way to do that is having evidence of what you've done in the past. That's why journaling is so critical. Next, if we're going to have this role in thinking about how we reflect upon our self-awareness, man, this is a big one for me. I got to understand my triggers. As a person that struggled with alcoholism, drug addiction, I was conscious of what my triggers were. I had to cut those off. I had to disassociate. For some of you that maybe have been in the program, you know we say is people, places, and things, right? And as a recovering alcoholic, hey, 7 years, we're moving along. It's been good. And it's been good because now I'm coming to a self-awareness of who I really am. I wasn't that person before. What I was is I was a shell of myself. And so that's why reflecting upon where we've come from strengthens us, gives us, it fortifies us to move forward. Lastly, I want you to think about, as we're talking about reflection now, practicing mindfulness and staying in the present. Folks, I meet too many people that live in the past. You know, one of my favorite authors, Miles Monroe, said, those are your stories, and those are important. But what are the stories that you will create tomorrow, today? Hey, listen, who you were yesterday is not who you are today. And by all means, it's not who you're going to be tomorrow. Self-awareness. So I think about, there's another word that kind of ties to this, and you all have heard it before, this emotional intelligence, right? Understanding, remember I talked about my emotions. What causes me to get angry? Hey, listen, let me give you a real quick tip on anger. Anger is the byproduct of bitterness. Bitterness. When the seed of bitterness is sowed, it produces something known as anger. Anger is the flower that has come out of the ground, the soil, the heart, the mind. And when people are angry, they act and respond in a manner that's usually not rational. Hey, listen, I've been angry and said some things that I had to go and apologize. I've been angry and done some things that I said, that's not who I want to be, Milton. So this is our emotional intelligence, being intelligent about my own emotions, developing a healthy self-image. That is critical. You've heard this term before, right? It's a computer term. You've heard it before. Garbage in, garbage out. And I had to be careful of what was coming into my sensescapes around me, the people that were allowing to come into my inner circle. Did they bring the same value and belief system that I bring? If not, you got to ask yourself this. Why are you settling for that? Why are you tolerating that? When I think about emotional intelligence, I think about the ability to have empathy by recognizing others' perspectives. Now, I got to tell you, as a type A personality, a person that's a know-it-all, is there anybody else in the audience can relate to that? You know, I have to sometimes stop and say, so I've learned to ask this question. Here's a good one for you. Use this tool. I've learned to ask people, help me understand why you feel that way. Instead of saying, why do you think that way? Instead of saying, that's crazy. No, help me. Help me, because I'm sure it's important to you. But if you could help me, I could understand it better. Why do you see blue when I see red? Help me understand that. Maybe you grew up in a house where everything was blue and that's the only color you know. I don't know. But my point being is, have empathy to try to understand. Stephen Covey, another one of my favorite authors, wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 5 in that book has been a pinnacle for me. It says, seek first to understand instead of being understood. Wow. You mean I should try to understand? Yeah, you really should. And lastly, if we think about emotional intelligence, it's strengthening my leadership skills. Now, let me just stop there and put a pin in this and say, leadership in this case is not a title. You can have situational leadership. It might be 3 of your friends, and you can exercise leadership just by the conversation, the direction, the thought, even the actions. So keep in mind, you're developing and strengthening your leadership skills, which ultimately strengthens your resolve and your self-awareness. So, one of the things that we know about self-awareness is every now and again, we have to ask for some feedback. Now, this is a little different here now, so stay with me. You see, I meet people that say, I want to give you some constructive criticism. And when I hear that, the first thing comes to my mind is, criticism is criticism. I don't care if it's destructive or non-destructive or whatever it is. It's got the root word of criticism in it. And so we want to give people feedback. And so the way I like to give feedback is ask this question. Hey, listen, may I share something with you that I see might help? It just might help. I try to get permission because most people don't really want to hear what you have to say because they've already made up their mind what they're going to do. So seeking input from people. Now here's the key. They better be people you trust. They better be people that's in your inner circle. They better be people that's got your best, what's the word I want to use? They have your best at their heart. In other words, they're not trying to tear you down, they're trying to build you up. Hey, on my team, there's a guy. I want to share this with you. He rubs me the wrong way all the time. But he's one of the most valuable people on my team because he comes with a different perspective, a different thought process. And I'm learning why he thinks that way, which is making me a better leader. I want to shut him down. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to hear it. But what I find is that when I take that feedback, it opens me up to be a better version of myself. I do a lot of trainings. And one of the things that we do is we give out evaluations after the training. And man, that's the goal for me, is to read that evaluation, see what people are saying. But do you know, in life, it's hard to find people that will give you true evaluation. So be careful about feedback and self-awareness there, right? Now, you got to be open to this. And it takes a while to get here. Like once my self-image is strong enough, I can hear some things that maybe are a little tough to hear. But that helps my self-awareness. It builds me as a person. You see, here's what's really happening. I call it patterns. Once I start hearing the same thing from other people, then I should probably stop and look in the mirror and say, hey, is there any truth to that? The mirror, because I like to talk to myself. Hey, is there any truth to that? Are these people just saying that, or do they have a valid point? See, I'm really doing some deep self-awareness when I'm in that mirror having that conversation with myself. Now I can decide, watch folks, now I can decide if I want to make the incremental changes. Not catastrophic, because I'm not going to do that, you're not going to do that. But every day we make small changes that mounts to large changes. You're a byproduct of your habit. So now remember, if we're going to build strong self-awareness, consider, are we open to feedback? Next, when I think of self-awareness, I think of this stress management, right? Like life is tough. I don't have to tell you, you already know. You could look to your left and to your right and see some things that would just probably cause you to say, wow. And so it is with life. Life was never promised to be easy, and life's not fair. But here's what I do know. It's important that I take care of myself, my well-being. I have some things that I have to pay close attention to. If not, they will take me to dark places. That's how much I have to be in tune with my self-awareness. Recognizing what are those signals, what are those flags, what are those things. Hey, let me teach you this little exercise my therapist taught me. She said, every once in a while you should talk to your heart. And I thought that was the most bizarre thing that she would say to me. What do you mean, talk to my heart? This is what she said. She said, Milton, follow this exercise. Okay, if you insist. She says, say this to yourself. Heart, what do you need from me for your well-being? And I find that that's an interesting question to ask my heart. Now, if I ask my body says rest. My body's default statement is rest. But my heart will say, I want love. I want attention. I want to be cared for. I want to be respected. That's how my heart talks to me. My body, default answer, I want rest. So you have to have a management system of yourself. Now, I'm not going to talk about exercise because that's probably the least thing that I should be talking about, because that is the part I struggle with the most. I don't know why I don't find it important enough to walk, to take care of my well-being at 64. And I recognize, and I'm getting better, don't judge me, that I know I need to take care of some things. I went to the doctor again this year for my annual physical. Everything's good. And he always says the same thing. You need to lose weight. Your triglyceride level's a little border this year. Your cholesterol, watch what you're eating. And he don't know I'm having a love affair with Breyer's ice cream. He has no idea. But I got to be conscious of that. I got to be aware of that. I don't need the bowl this big. Just get the small bowl. But I love it. Do I need 14 bags of potato chips? Do I need Snickers, Reese's, and M&M's? Yes! But you got to manage yourself. It's tough. I'm not suggesting it's easy. I applaud you for coming today to hear just a few of these tips that you might take away. Understanding this, you got to avoid the negative patterns of life. Did you know my bedroom can be the darkest place for me? And if I'm not careful, I will find myself laying in that bed, wallowing in my pity, in my sorrow, and everything that's not going right in my life. My bedroom. While it's where I get some of the best rest, where I have some of the best conversations, where I get energized for the next day ahead, I have to be careful that I don't use that as a place where I lock myself away. Be careful. Take care of yourself. Lastly, learn when it's time to seek support from friends and professionals. Hey, listen, as a person that was institutionalized for depression, as a person that struggled with mental health, I'm telling you it's real. And you got to take care of yourself. It's just important. The person you see standing before you here today is nothing no more than a broken man that's been put back together time and time again. And you can probably attest to your brokenness right now. Hey, listen, I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm here to help you and tell you that self-awareness is about being the best version of yourself. Please promise me. Promise me. If you need any support, those people in that room today will make sure you get what you need. They have trained counselors on staff. They have built relationships with people. That if you feel any unction to do anything that you think is dark, that you would not be proud of, that may be harm to you or someone else, I'm asking you, hey, just reach over and grab one of their hands and say, I'd like to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Can I talk to you in private? Hey, here's my number. Can I call you? We've got resources for you, but you got to be willing to ask and to receive. Let us help you in that area. Thank you. Next, I want to talk about what does it look like on a daily basis, right? So remember I said we're creatures of habit, the things we do. So think about it like this. I read one time that if you do something 21 days consecutively, you form a habit. Then I read that if you do something 90 days consecutively, you form a lifestyle. Now check this out. I remember during COVID, in case some of you may remember, I had some habits that I was doing every day, and they weren't good. Like I was watching way too much news and being bombarded with negativity. It's okay to be informed, but how much do you need? Milton's sitting there with a tally sheet counting, what's going on in Maryland and how many. That's just too much. I was doing too much. And I recognized that habit had to change. So here's what I did. I started using more YouTube to pour into my mind, into my heart, some of my favorite authors, some great learning, great teaching, and I taught myself a lot during that period of time. For example, today we're in my studio where I decided to put this together during COVID because I took my daily practice and turned it around. I'm not saying that to applaud or to brag or anything like that. I'm just telling you, you can do it too. But you got to form a new habit on top of the habit you want to replace. That's the key. Next is make intentional choices rather than reaction responses and impulsive decisions. You talk about impulsive, and I'm very impulsive. I love to shop. Anybody love to shop? Anybody love to shop? I will go shopping just to shop. Let me say it again. I will go shopping just to shop. I love to shop. And you ready? I love a deal. And I become impulsive. Like, how many more bottles of that do you need? I don't know. Is it a disorder? Could be. It could be borderline, but I justify it by I have what I need. My daily life has to be more simplified, more structured. Can't be impulsive. Here's the problem. When I have holes in my calendar, my life goes astray. When my life is structured with things that I do every day, I'm much more focused and disciplined. Daily habits. Constantly stay in the learning process, right? Hey, think about it like this. Today, decide I'm going to be a lifelong learner. I'm going to learn something new every day. Hey, one of the things I'm embarking on right now, folks, it's amazing that I think the next revolution is going to change our life. And in my lifetime, since being 64, I've seen 3 things that have changed my life. The first was in 1983 when the personal computer was introduced and that came into my home. That changed my life. In 2009-10, when I finally decided to get an iPhone, I thought, my goodness, I've got the world here in my palm. Now in 2025, listen to the next one that I think is the game changer for all of this. And it may not be something you're interested in, but it's just all about learning and growing. And it's artificial intelligence, AI. I don't think it's gone anywhere. And I think it's going to revolutionize the way we do things. But my point is, are you in a learning pattern? Be a lifelong learner. Decide today I'm going to grow and I'm going to change and I'm going to learn. And finally, this is what I want you to do for yourself. You may live in an environment, you may be in a relationship, you may be friends, family that don't acknowledge you. They don't see the good in you. All they see is the destruction, the bad, the past, the present, whatever that is. Folks, I'm here to tell you, sometimes you just got to celebrate yourself. You got to reach over and pat yourself on the back. Now, don't stay there too long patting yourself or you'll get tired. But my point is, celebrate the small wins. Hey, I got up on time. I made those 5 calls. I went and visited that place that I knew I said I was going to. I made that call and got the help for me. You know what else? I'm going to call about that job. Whatever that looks like for you, let's have some small wins. So let's wind down. I want to honor you today. And I honor our veterans and their families and the active duty. And I just honor you. I think about what you do, and it's just such a blessing. And I think about, as I work with the Department of Veterans Affairs across the United States, and I see the impact of our veterans. I don't always agree with the way they're treated, but I want to tell you today, I just want to stop and honor you. Veterans, your service and your sacrifice have shaped this nation. Think about your journey, your growth, the struggles, how you've discovered, the things you've seen, what you've gone through. Your self-awareness right now will empower you to lead with confidence. But more importantly, it will give you that sense of fulfillment once you discover your purpose. And that's how I want to wind down today. There's a purpose lying inside of each of you that is waiting to be discovered. There's something that wants to be wakened up right now. Your purpose is chasing you and you've been running. So whatever that is, let me honor and celebrate you by saying, thank you, thank you. Let's build on your future today. Now promise me, you'll reach out to those folks in the room. They want to help you. That team of people there is dedicated to serving the veteran population. We've been so fortunate to be awarded this grant to serve people, and that's what we want to do. So let's just wind down with this. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. My name is Milton Hunt. Today we talked about self-awareness. I'd ask you just to stop now, and maybe we could have a few-minute reflection in the room about the number one thing that you've learned so far. What might you take away from today? Because here's what it's really all about. How will we leave people better than we found them? Thank you.